So in India, if you see from ancient times, there has always been, the bhakti music or the nama sankirtanam, the folk music, music associated with the day-to-day events, the day-to-day happenings, and then something called classical music, right? So the interesting part is how this classical music evolved. Let me start as usual. Any a session which I do, or any concert I do, with the homage to people who have made this possible, made this art possible, to all the gurus. Jnananandamayam devam nirmala spatikakrityum Adharam sarva vidyana hayagrivam upasmahe. Guru నీకి తెలియకపోదు గురులేక ఎటువంటి గునికి తెలియకపోదు గురులేక ఎటువంటి గునికి కరుకైన హృద్రోగ గగనమును కోటను కరుకైన హృద్రోగ గగనమును కోటను సద్గురు లేక ఎటువంటి గునికి తనువు సుత ధనధారదాయాది పాదవులు జనిగించి చటరు జాలిని కరుణతో మనసు నడకసేయు మదనుచు తత్వబోధన జేసిక పడు త్యాగరాజతుడకు గురులేక ఎటువంటి గునికి తెలియక బోధు గురులేక ఎటువంటి గునికి. So to all those gurus who made it possible and have given us this such a beautiful art form. The Nama Sankirtanam in the ancient, if you see the history of Carnatic music, you see that in the ancient period, there were two streams. One is the, if I may call it, the set of authors, the set of music scholars who put in a framework for this to evolve or to propagate and to come to the stage that we are in. And then another is a set of practitioners who took these and gave it to the intellectuals and the laymen alike, so that this music got propagated more. If you see the reference to this, the music, Carnatic music, especially in the southern part of India, and what was the Tamil Nadu then, possibly 1,500 years back, you will see that one of the oldest epics which talked in detail. When we talk about, we are not just talking about the theory, which talked about the theory and the practical of music, was a great Tamil epic called Silappadigaram. Silappadigaram was a story. It's a particular story, but in that story of Kannagi, I think all of you would have heard about the story of Kannagi. But in the particular places where they are talking about the musical scenario, very detailed information is given about the grammar, the framework of music, which you can relate to this time. So it's must be almost 2,000 years, right? So that was, if you see, one of the first detailed information available. The next, if you see that, the next two works which are very, very, very predominant is the Natya Shastra and the Sangeeta Ratnakara. Of course, Sangeeta Ratnakara came much later, but the Natya Shastra had very detailed information about these arts. I will not go into the details of this, but it suffices to say that many information which we talk about, in terms of what you called as the raga frameworks, the grammar of this, how a concert should be sung, how a person should sing music, how he should keep his face, how he should sit, how he should use his voice. All these things have been mentioned in these works, including what I talked, Natya Shastra and later in Sangeeta Ratnakara. This Natya Shastra is again in the first five centuries. Then post that, and a very, very, very important thing which came, which took music to people in numbers, was the great work of the Bhakti saints. So in North India, we had Mirabai, Kabir, Surdas, and including Guru Nanak and others there. And in South, the two great groups of the Vaishnavite and Saivite saints, the Alvars and Nayanmars, their work reflected a lot of this, the theory of the music, into the practice. So the raga is a melodic structure. That melodic, many of those melodic structures were incorporated in the poems and the songs these Bhakti saints sang. We don't. There is some. What should I say? A practical information which is which has about the North Indian Bhakti saints, but the practice part, the singing part, was not, in which rag they sang, on how they sang the tune, is not available. Whereas in terms of the works of the Saivite and the Vaishnavite saints, the Nayanmars and the Alvars, there is quite an information which is available, because they have documented. Every song was documented with its own raga and what kind of rhythm it should have. So there was a good, of course, unfortunately, since we didn't have recording devices and other things, we don't know exactly how they sang. But at least there is a reference to that it was sung in this particular melodic structure. Then this is one period where there was a lot of there's a lot of other important works like Brihad Desi in Carnatic music and many others during that period, which gave a very good starting point to the Carnatic music framework. And as I said, of course, the practical aspect of that, we are not really aware. Post that point, if you see, the first contribution to Carnatic music, to make Carnatic music something of what we have now, was made by, nobody's guess, who's called a Sangeeta Pitamaha, Purandaradasa. Of course, there is a lot of discussion on how this name Carnatic music, whether it is Carnatic music or Karnataka, because Karnataka music, the music which came from here, but Karnatakam also in the old, the Tamil, it also means something which is old, which has come from. And so there's all this discussion, but that's not really important. What is important is there were these great composers and these great musicians who have, propagated this, I should say discovered this, took this fully and gave it to people. And that is what matters. And the beauty of that music matters. So the Purandaradasa was the first, should say, the composer, right? Who gave us a very structured way to look at learning music and then singing music. If you see, prior to Purandaradasa, there was a lot of grammatical work. There was a lot of what we heard about Bhakti saints and others. But Purandaradasa gave it a formal methodology so that everyone can you know, take this music and learn it, sing it, and enjoy it. Of course, there at that time, it was there is no very clear evidence whether there was performance except in the king's court, whether there were general performances. Of course, there were performances in king's courts and temples. Then comes the period which uh, which was a defining. So one defining. I would say three defining moments. The first defining moment is the Bhakti saints, you know, who created, who used all what was there to create such great work, and then came the. I'm talking about in terms of the practical establishment of this art. Next came the great saint Purandaradasa, right? That's the second. The third great defining movement is the evolution of Tanjavur, right? Which was first ruled by the Marathas and then by the Nayaks, which became a flourishing point for all these arts. Because if you see the way music is being practiced now, it's being presented now, and it's being taught now. If you see, it's all started with Purandaradasa's period and peaked during this particular rule of the Maratha and the Nayak kings when they ruled Tanjavur. That's why in Tanjavur you see everything came together into that point. Okay, I think it's a political and social events which happened during that time, and all this congregated into that particular point. Because there will be question if you see in Tamil Nadu at that. So Tanjavur was in the proper Tamil Nadu, and if you see most of the people who contributed, many great composers, including Saint Tyagaraja, Shama Shastri, they were all people who migrated from outside into that place. The Nama Sankirtanam, for example, if you look at the great the bhakti poems which originated in those period and which were propagated, if you see, many of them came from Maharashtra, from Karnataka, and because of Krishna Devaraya's rule at that time, many of them, right, it was a vassal to the kingdom. So many of them shifted there, and this became a very, very, very active cultural pot. Tanjavur became an actual cultural pot where people from different states, predominantly, if you see, Maharashtra, Karnataka, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, these four congregated into that particular place. And hence you will see at that point of time a great you know, you may call the word, you may use the word renaissance of arts, right? So in Carnatic music, we can talk about so many things, singers, this, that, and all. We should talk about the life of one particular person who set the base for this, right? This person is called Venkata Makhin. So who was Venkata Makhin? So now Purandaradasa has given his set framework, right? But still the ragas and others have not been assimilated, have not been formed into a framework in a way which is easy to teach, or in a way it is easy to understand and to be taken. So there was this person called Venkata Makhin. At that time, during this is the period approximately in the 17th century, starting 17th century to end 17th century. It was ruled by two great kings who were great patrons of art. First was Raghunatha Nayak, and the second one was Vijayaraghava Nayak. So these two people saw to that this ancient art of the South has to be propagated. First of all, has to be strengthened and propagated. Luckily, they had in their court a minister called Govinda Dikshita. He was from Shivamoga, and he was the minister of Raghunatha Nayak. He had learnt Veena, and he was very very good in many arts. So if you see that at that time, uh, this Venkatamakin he was very well versed in Sanskrit. He was well versed in astrology, logic, philosophy, and very important, something called Alankara. Alankara is nothing but, this has also been used by Purandaradasa. I have to make a small deviation here, that it was not this time, that Purandaradasa comes a slightly later. No, I mentioned before, that was not correct. So what happened is, Venkatamaki took this Alankaras are nothing but how a particular melodic structure can be taken. For example, Sari ga ma pa da ni sa za ni da pa ma ga ri sa, Sari ga ma ga ri pa ma ga ri da pa ma ga ri ni da pa ma ga ri sa ni da pa ma ga ri. The permutations and combinations of a melodic structure. Nisa da nisa pa da nisa ma pa da nisa ga ma pa da nisa ri ga ma pa da nisa sari ga ma pa da nisa, like this. These are called alankarams. What Venkatamakin did is, he used this knowledge. He used his knowledge of Sanskrit, his knowledge of music, his knowledge of playing veena, and arrived at what is called as the 72, the mother ragas or the Melakarta ragas, which defined how ragas need to be organized. So basically what he did is that he has given a very, very strong framework, organized, that he took all information which was arrived, he used his musical expertise to simplify the organization of that, the entire musical framework, and that holds till now. Of course, in all this, there is always controversies, conflicts, whether to follow this, not to follow, or is right, not, but it has stayed till now. It's almost how many? It's like 350 years. So this was the starting point. So if you see technically in India, South India, Carnatic music, the regularized form, which could be taught, sung, and all, we can say that it is around 350 years or so. So this particular contribution is one of the greatest milestones of Carnatic music. Now let us go to the next point. So music has the framework has been set, right? And he was in the court of the kings who were propagating music. So there were a lot of artists who had moved to Tanjavur, right? The Maratha kings. So the Maratha kings brought in their artists from Maharashtra. The Raghunath Nayak kings, in the period of Nayak kings, many artists migrated from Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh into Tanjavur. So this became a great Renaissance part where a lot of compositions sprang. And by that time, Purandaradasa was also in the 17th, 18th century, has given his entire framework of the musical lineage which he had started propagating. So all this provided a great impetus to what was happening in Tanjavur. So now we hear songs, right? We hear songs in a certain structure. If you see, prior to this point with the Bhakti saints and all, there is what is called as a Prabandham structure. The songs didn't have 2 lines of what you call as Pallavi, Anupallavi, Charanam. They were all 8 lines, 12 lines, 16 lines, which went, for example, it just go for those of you who would have heard Tirupavai or Devarams. Tirupavai is a work of the Alvar saints. Devaram is a work of the Nayanmar saints. So if you see, so it just goes line by line. There is no particular structure to it. Whereas post Purandaradasa, and there were 3 more saints at that point of time who were Annamacharya, Ramadasu. These people gave a song structure. They gave a song structure to this entire music. Prior to that, the structure was predominantly, 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, or 8 lines, 8 lines, or 2, 2, 2, 2, like that. So it will go like மார்கழி திங்கள் மதி நிறைந்த நன்னாளாம் நீராட போகுமீர் போகுமினரு நேரிழை சீர் மல்கும் ஆய்ப்பாடி செல்வச் சிறுமீர்கள் கூர்வேல் கூடுந்தொழிலன் நந்தகோபன் குமரன் வானனை மதிசூடிய மைந்தனை தேனனை திருவண்ணாமலையனை. It will go like that, those two, and possibly sung, chanted, but it is like that. But with the arrival of Purandradasa, Annamacharya, and Ramadasu. So Talapakam, Annamacharya is from a place called Talapakam in Andhra Pradesh, and there were Talapakam brothers, he and his brother, and then we had Ramadasu also from Andhra Pradesh. They gave the first how a song should be sung, a song structure. So post that, but these were very mostly they sang very philosophical songs, and to compose music, to write music, right? To keep in mind all the grammar and compose music doesn't seem to be the main criterion of these composers, because when you see what is available of their manuscripts, they have not given very clear notations. Notations means how this entire song should progress, right? That kind of an indication is not being given by them. But however, they bought this kind of a song structure. That is the reason why many of their songs, people sing it in different languages. Some people sing in traditional, not in different language, different ragas. Some people sing it in traditional, the so-called traditional ragas, which was sung possibly 100 years, 200 years back. But many have also been transformed. Now then, post this period, the structure, the full structure and notation to the songs, or they called them as kritis, how they should be sung, were given by three people. They were called the Tamil Mover, the Muttuttandavar, Arunachala Kavirayar, or Marimutta Pillai. Now these were the three people who gave a lot of notated songs. Now prior to them, note that prior to them, during Purandradasa, the Haridasas, then Alvars, Nayanmars, and even Annamacharya and Ramadas were all given a lot of compositions, but not clearly notated and how a song should be constructed. And these were the first people who were supposed to have done that according to historical evidence available. But the greatest works in Carnatic music came after that, by whom we call as the Trinity of Music: Saint Tyagaraja, Muthuswami Dikshitar, and Shyama Shastri. Now, during their period also, there were a lot of other composers who composed, music, but their contribution stands above the rest due to various reasons. Tyagaraja, Dikshitar, Shyama Shastri were all very well versed in the basics and the foundations of music. In fact, Tyagaraja, and there is written evidence, and where it has been documented that Tyagaraja, Shastri, and Muthuswami Dikshitar, they used to teach the complete framework as taught by Saint Purandradasa to all their students. So they felt that was very important. So that was a very good link between what Purandradasa contributed and how these three, so the one Pitamaha contributed, and the great Trinity, how they took it and preserved it and propagated it. So these three, the Trinity were the key people in fostering and propagating Carnatic music, because if you see, Tyagaraja had a huge number of disciples. Dikshitar also had many disciples, but not maybe to the number of Tyagaraja, whereas Shyama Shastri had very less disciples. But irrespective of this, because of this great what you called as the Shishya Parampara, lot of this music has come to us. It's not been lost. Lots have come. Of course, things have evolved, things have changed, and that's a natural process. Maybe that is the reason why Carnatic music has survived till now. That it didn't become obsolete. It didn't become static. As with times and with more and more and people starting to listen and more and people exploring and experimenting, possibly that is the reason why this organically this art, the classical art, has survived. So if you see that along with the Trinity, there were a lot of composers, great composers who contributed to, and there's a big list, but just to name a few, there was a very another famous composer whose compositions are sung called Gopala Krishna Bharati. Then you had Mayuram Vishwanatha Shastri. In fact, some of the great composers and musicians of Karnataka, like Veena Seshanna, they all come under this heritage, direct heritage. Okay, it's not fourth generation, fifth generation. They come direct, the second, third, and so it's highly likely that they all possess the original knowledge which was given to us by this great Trinity. So we talked about the Maharajas of Tanjavur who fostered. There are two other places which fostered music in a very big way post this period. One is the Trivandrum court, other one is the Mysore court. So the contribution of Mysore court is very huge to this compositional and the practiced music music of South India. The reason being, in Trivandrum court, there's a lot of Carnatic music which was happening, but if you look at the Mysore court, there was a very beautiful and healthy mix of South Indian and North Indian music. This amalgam created some beautiful exchange of ideas, beautiful compositions which came about at that time. And one of the person who also came in that lineage was Mysore Sadashiva Rao, who has contributed greatly to this musical compositions. So the Mysore was there, Trivandrum was there, and then Tanjavur. And the Carnatic music around these areas also grew up when the monarchy fell, and then this Zamindar's system came. Zamindar system was there. Many of these Zamindars across these different states also propagated this music, especially if you say two names, what is Karaikudi and Ramanathapuram. Many great artists came from here. Many great, I mean, like the number of artists who have come from these courts and fostered by this great zamindars. If you see the number is endless, actually. In fact, only a portion of those who are fostered by them, and we have some detailed information. Many others are still as names and been marked as saying these were great musicians then. So let us come to the post-Trinity period. So the Trinity did all this. They created a lot of students. Many of the students of Tyagaraja, if you see, became themselves very great composers. And they've contributed greatly to this, again, the compositional numbers in Carnatic music. The two names which immediately has to be Balajapet Venkatramana Bhagodara, a direct disciple of Tyagaraja, his student Patnam Subramanya Iyer, and his student Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar. And the great Aryakudi Ramanuja Iyengar, who gave us the current format of Carnatic music, which we are all now listening to, was student of Puchi Srinivasa Iyengar. It's highly likely that these people have the kind of an original, authentic version of how Tyagaraja would have composed. but you don't see this. I mean, sadly, you don't see that the compositional propagation in Dikshitar or Shama Shastri very less compared to what Tyagaraja's disciples have carried on. So possibly that is the reason also the numbers which are authentic information available on Tyagaraja Kritis, and also since he had so many students, also the probability that there are different versions of songs between various students or various schools under Tyagaraja. Now, post this, the next Renaissance. If see, they used to say in Carnatic music during particular point of time, say post Tyagaraja up to say 1930s or so, right? The concert format was very different, and and you should also note there's another stream which comes here, this Carnatic music, right? In the social aspect of it, if you look at, yes, there are lot of people from a particular community, which is Brahmins, they had the opportunity to learn. But if you see more so, many of this compositional, many of the music was actually preserved by what is called as the Pillai community. The Pillai community is also part of the what existed then as the Devadasi community. The Devadasis, many important Devadasi families, if you see, they had the original versions of these songs, and they would not easily give it to anyone, not because they want to own it. They felt only someone who's very deserving, only with someone who's very deserving, this will remain in safe hands and can be propagated. So this is another very important aspect which we should look at. And many of these Pillais were Nadaswaram players. You know, all of you have seen Nadaswaram being played in various occasions. So many of these people, many of these the musicians of this community, if you see, they were in direct recipients of songs and compositions directly from the disciples of this Trinity. So these were very important people in the propagation of music. But now, if you see, it is in different places. There is with some students, some performers, some this particular the Devadasi community, and all that. There was one person who came this beginning of that century. He made a great effort to unify all this, bring all this under one book called Karunamrita Sagaram. And that, we really have to give credit to Pandit Abraham Panditer. His name was Abraham Panditer. And he compiled this entire Karunamrita Sagaram. It's a two huge books, which made documentation of this entire thing possible. So many of these are available, and there is a reference for us there. And the other great work, which at that time, which became a compendium or this kind of a compilation, is what is called as Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini, which again compiled. This was done by Dikshitar's grandson, and which again compiled all this into a certain volumes of books. So because of this, we have a very good idea of how these songs were sung, how they were actually originally composed, what changes could have happened now, how it should be sung, meaning even the notes indicating that when you go from here to here, this is how you have to go, which is very good, because now they serve as a reference to regain or to maintain some kind of authenticity of how these composers composed. Now that is one part. So this is another milestone. So Bhakti Saints, one milestone. The next milestone was Purandaradasa, and then another milestone was, no, I should say first, the milestone before that is the framework which was put by Venkatamakin, then Purandaradasa's great contribution, then Tanjavur and the Trinity and the compositions of the Trinity. Then see, now all this has been done, but somebody had to compile it. The next milestone is Abraham Panditer and this SSP, as they call it shortly, Sangeeta Sampradaya Pradarshini. These two great works. Now, after this, After this, now everything is there, and the whole concept of concerts had come. In King's Court, in temples, the concerts were being sung. So the next step, logical step, was this should be sung, this should be presented, this should be propagated, right? And that is where the musicians, the great musicians of this lineage, of this great Carnatic music lineage came in. So prior to Aryagudi Ramanuja Iyengar, many musicians are there. There is documentation of their singing and how they sang and all that. But the documentation say many of them were very elongated concerts, right? They were very elongated concerts, 4 hours. Maybe they will start at 7 o'clock, because what happens is many of the Brahmin musicians, they have to in the evening, they will do their evening rituals like Sandhya Vandanam and then start the concert. Then they go for a break for dinner and Sandhya Vandanam dinner, and then again they will continue. So what starts at 7 o'clock will go up to possibly 1, 2 o'clock in the night. They all had time, right? Lot of time they had. And they could enjoy with all this. So a 6-hour, 4-hour to 6-hour concert. And what happened then also, though there were so many compositions available, they chose only a certain set of, possibly a lot around Trinity compositions, and used to sing and elaborate. Like one item they could sing for an hour and a half, 2 hours. So even in this 5 hours, they might sing only 4 items. Right? No, it was not very appealing to everyone. So when Aryagudi Ramanuja Iyengar, he told, sorry, this is not the format it should be. No, everyone should enjoy. And for him, it became more important because he was patronized by these zamindars, Karaikudi zamindars, Ramanathapuram zamindars, who, some of them knew music, but many of the people who came to listen were not aware of music. There's a very well-known joke and it's documented, it's told by Aryagudi Ramanuja Iyengar. He was singing in one concert, and he had just finished singing Todi and a big Kriti and all that. So one person who was sitting in the front got up and told, sir, great, you sang so well, but how can you finish the concert without singing Todi? Okay, which is just finished. But Aryagudi Ramanuja Iyengar, being him, he took another Todi Kriti, sang and told, see, this is Todi. And no, this is a very common thing which is quoted about Ramanuja Iyengar. But he created, so what he did, he also brought in a lot of other compositions into his concerts. He popularized a lot of compositions. That was very important, because other than Trinity, people were not singing many other compositions. So this entire, so he was, if you say, he brought another kind of renaissance in performing music by bringing out, by saying that, see, let us not make this format very hard and very dry. Let us make it engaging so that everybody, even a lay person, should be able to enjoy it. Post Aryagudi Ramanuja Iyengar, this was taken up and done. But again, what happened is mostly what was sung is Trinity music. So in Tamil Nadu, they started a movement called Tamil Isai movement, which said, sorry, why should you sing only this kind of songs? Okay. And why should you sing only the Trinity songs? People in that particular area, you should sing more songs in that language so that they can also appreciate it. And then that huge Tamil Isai movement started there, which became an arm by itself, and has been propagating, music, been collecting music across different composers of Tamil and incorporating them into concerts. Similarly, if you see in Karnataka, this Haridasa movement, collecting, assimilating, notating, and propagating the compositions of the great Haridasas. If you say Haridasas, some of the very, very great philosophical works, poems, philosophical poems. They are not just some general bhakti, just bhakti, poems. They are much more than bhakti. They talk about life, in detail. So all this has come into the current form of what we have. But how it could have been 2000 years back, we have an idea, small, that it could have been like that with these Silappadigaram, more because It exactly talks about how a concert was done, how the stage was set up, how these people should sit, and all those kind of things. Okay, the framework and the grammar, possibly some of these things I mentioned, like Natya Shastra, Sangeeta Ratnagara, that music was sung and taken to the lay people by the great Bhakti saints. That music was given a good framework for learning and practice by our great Pitamaha, Saint Purandaradasa. And then the complete compositional and grammar framework for music during Venkatamakin's time, and following that, huge number of concerts, which we have, huge number of compositions, which we have got now. So that is a bird's eye view of this entire thing. There's a bird's eye, because if you want to talk about in detail, you will have to do over 3-4 sessions. Now, it's not like very, to go into the details of who all contributed. But an important point which I have to mention also, in the Tanjavur was a bustling activity of music and culture. This amalgamation of North Indian ragas, the amalgamation of the Haridasa, that time even the Haridasa Kirtanas was amalgamated into the Nama Sankirtanam tradition. There's a Carnatic music tradition, there's a Nama Sankirtanam tradition, which is by itself, which is, let me say in a very simplistic term, the Bhakti Sangeet, which itself is a completely different, it's a different topic. There's a huge amalgamation which has happened. And the exchange of ideas, Carnatic music and both Hindustani music and Carnatic music, the way they have exchanged ideas, taken things, has actually strengthened and added beauty to both the music. So that is something which we should always, remember. So with this, possibly, I just gave a bird's eye view, and I will stop with this. If there are any questions, I will take. So because I went through just what I thought as milestones, which people can relate to and keep it, which will help people to see what happened. Now, each of these milestones, if we go in depth, there's lots more to tell. If there are any questions, I can take.
Mr. Vasudevan,
Yes.
I'm Nagaraj Rao, President, Bangalore Apartment Federation. I have a question.
Yes, sir. Please go.
There was some sort of a coding structure for the Sangeet about 1,000 years ago, and it was called Katapayogi Sankhya.
Katapayadi.
Katapayadi Sankhya.
Katapayadi Sankhya, yes.
Can you tell something about
it? Sure. So, you have this Kakagagya, like that, Kasada, Tabara, Yarala, Vayala, the different consonants, right? Now, this was again during the Venkatamakin time, post that. So, when they organized the ragas, right, they wanted the ragas names to follow a particular mode. They wanted it to follow a particular discipline. So what they did is they gave numbers to each of this. So Ka means 1, Sa means like that 1, say something else is 2, something is 3, like that they numbered the systems. So when they organized it as 72 ragas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? If you take the particular raga name and add all the number assigned to all the syllables and invert it, that should be the number in which it has to appear in that 72 list. For example, Shankarabharanam, we have heard of a raga called Shankarabharanam, which is major C in Western music. Now, Shankarabharanam is the name which we all say. But whereas if you go and see in the 72 list, it will be given Dhira Shankarabharanam. Shankarabharanam on that list is 29. Okay, it will come to that list on 29, the way it has been organized, only if you inverted what? That the syllable, sorry, the sha, ing, ka, ra, that all that numbers assigned to that add up to 92. So 92 inverted is 29. So that didn't happen. So what they did is they added 2 more syllables to make it 92. So this is called the Katapaya. That is called Katapayadi Sankhya.
How old
Very
is
interesting.
this? How old
This is the 16, 1700, approximately 300 years.
Oh, that means a terrible coding was there even before the computer was thought of.
Oh, yes. No, it's very interesting because you pointed a very interesting thing. See, first of all, how did they come this? These are the 7 swaras I should take. No, that's a very great thing, no? Because in between also I can find tones. Sa, 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 re, sa, re, sa, re, sa, ga, sa, ga, sa, ga, sa, ma, sa, ma, sa, ma, sa, pa, da, da. See, how did they arrive at all these and said these are the only sounds? Because it seems, you know what they did? They did a complete experimentation with, I don't know, 16 or 26 veena. So they tune a particular veena for 7 the particular notes. They tune the next veena. They take the second note of that tuning and they tune the next veena starting that as the first note. Like this, they did so many permutation and combinations and arrived at what is the most relevant detectable musical sounds and arrived at these swaras. So see this, the reason another point. Thanks for asking this. The reason I didn't go into too much into the performing part because anyway we are all listening and all that. Why I told this is that all the other things there is a lot of science and there is a lot of logic gone into creating this. See, the performing part is different. So that is why in musical performance they say a person who's a very good musician or an artist is a person who has a good knowledge of Lakshya and Lakshana. Lakshana is grammar. Lakshya is somebody who sings by hearing. Just you hear, you don't know what is the grammar, what is the rules behind it. So they say a very good musician is somebody who balances these two. So did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Mr. Vasudevan, the Palghat in Kerala also was some kind of a melting pot of Carnatic music.
Exactly.
Yeah? Could you elaborate on that?
See, I think suppose this Swati Tirunal and the his court, supporting so many musicians and all that. See, there were certain spaces, certain places near those points which became the melting point of musicians to gather. So Balgad, I know it's quite far from, as of now, if you look at it, it is not close as such. But Palgad, what happened is many of these musicians who also moved from other places, the exact reason, but why they settled, I'm not clearly aware. But if you see some of the great teachers and the musicians at that point settled in Palgad, and then so it became a very what should I say, a kind of a melting point for Carnatic music to start there, and especially with the establishment of college there, the music college. In fact, my guru is from Palgad only. My guru Sri K.S. Narayana Swami is from Palgad. So Palgad, I don't know the history, the exact history of why, when that settle started and when it became that, but it's for sure it is post, Swati Tirunal's, fostering of all these musicians and musical activities there.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. And somebody has asked the question, the very, very, very interesting question. They're saying how to make Carnatic music interest to current children. For instance, when any devotional song is filmed, it reaches many of the audience. No doubt. So that's what, as I was telling you, that when it becomes Janaranchakam. Even now, so many Carnatic, songs are tuned based on Carnatic music. No doubt about it. I mean, no doubt. If you if you want to take, you have to give it to the children in the way in which they can relate. See, some children may directly come to Carnatic music. You don't require anything. Some children may be this way, that way, right? If you're really interested, we have to give them to those children in a way that they will get attracted to it. See, they may important doesn't it doesn't mean that everybody has to learn, sing, and perform. You can become very good listeners. You can become very good listeners. You can become teachers. See, so many things are there. It doesn't mean all people who learn Carnatic music and appreciate it have to start, singing and performing. No, it can be. See, that is the way music flourishes. If you see, we know a lot of common names, popular names. If you go and see, even if you take Bangalore, for instance, right? If you go around and see, there are this lot of, I think, hundreds of teachers who are in their own, own place, in their own area, doing very beautiful things, training students, taking this great art to many people. So the important thing is, yes, we have to give to some way, we have to give it to them, but without diluting it. See, that is very important. So somebody giving it, be it the musician or the teacher, should know how to give it without diluting it. That's very important.
Hello, Mr. Vasudev.
Yeah.
This is here. I just wanted to check whether you would be able to quickly compare and contrast, say, between Carnatic, Hindustani, and say Western classical. How different or similar are they?
Yeah. See, the Indian systems and the Western systems. The Western system is based on harmony and chords. Okay, whereas in the Indian system is based on the ragas and the basic life of Indian system. Okay. Now the important thing is, so if you look at it, what we call as the important thing which distinguishes that system, the Western and the Indian system, is these movements. One of the important thing is, I mentioned a word called alankarams. One of the type of alankarams is gamakam. So for example, if you sing Shankarabharanam, Sari Gama Pada Ni Sa Sari Ga Sari Ga Ma Pa Ma Ga Ma Re, something different ragam, not Shankarabharanam. Whereas if you see Western, sa re ga ma pa da ni sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. For them, it is a harmony between the notes. So, for example, ga ni ga ni ga ni. There is a harmony between these notes. It works on those harmonies. Whereas in Carnatic and Hindustani, it's the relationship between the notes. Sari ga, sari ga. So this is a major difference between the Western and Indian system. Now, between the Indian systems, right? If you look Hindustani and Carnatic, many things are similar. Many things are similar, but you have a certain kind of this movement which is called gamakam, which is different between these two. Like sa sa ga ri ga ma pa da ni sa. You'll never hear this kind of a gamakam in Hindustani music. That is why in Hindustani they have taken many rags from Carnatic music which don't have this kind of, like Charukeshi. Shankarabharanam is not there. Shankarabharanam was always in a different, in its form it has been there. Charukeshi, for example. Kripaya Sariga ma pa da ni sa sa ni da pa ma ga re sa. It's been taken. Simendra Madhyamam. Sa sa ri ga ma pa da ni sa, which don't have too much of this. If I might use that. Sa ga ri ga ma pa da pa. See, there is more movement in this. These kind of ragams, these kind of movements are not there in Hindustani music. So that's a major difference. Otherwise, the melodic structures are very similar.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
One more question, Mr. Vasudevan.
Yes.
There is no singer anywhere in any of the world, perhaps southern part of the world, in India, who doesn't mention the name of Tyagaraja, Saint Tyagaraja. But
yes,
most of the people who came up in the music never bothered about bringing up the Tiruvayar center for quite some time, except Nagaratnamma of Karnataka.
Exactly. That's human nature, I would say. No, that's very, very true. She's in fact, many people refer to her as Saint Nagaratnamma. You know that. They don't say just Nagaratnamma. Great contribution. See, no, even now you have bought that a very important. Even see, I visited December. Me and my students visited Tiruvarur. Okay, except for Tyagaraja's that houses and Shama Shastri's, the other places, if you see, I mean, if it were in West, those places would have been now like you know how it would have been maintained well. It's still it's so.
Actually, when I went in 1984-85, it was a sorry state of affairs. Now it has slightly improved, except one small Tyagaraja idol and Rama's idol. There was nothing else. Now it is slightly improved. I see.
See, I think in all, even in music, right, the political dynamics work. When I say politics, not the politics like party, not like that, but who have the most influence and what they talk and what they propagate at one point of time becomes important. That keeps changing. That keeps dynamically changing over here. So possibly, see, these play a lot of role in what gets importance at what point of time. Even the compositions.
At least I'm so happy that they congregate together, at least for Tyagaraja Aradhana.
Exactly.
So many singers get together. Except that, there's nothing much to be talked about.
In fact, since you mentioned about Tyagaraja Aradhana, and another interesting and important information is, in Bangalore, the same thing happens here in Vasant Nagar. After this Tyagaraja Aradhana in Tiruvarur, it is one of the biggest congregation of musicians, which happens normally in January, in that Bahula Panchami time, over a period of 4-5 days.
I see.
There's a very ancient temple there, where the Shiva temple, very beautiful. It happens over 5 days, and I mean, it'll be packed. It's a huge temple, large temple, but it'll be packed. I mean, I've never seen like that. So it's for those of you who are interested during January time, just watch out for that and go and attend that. It'll be a good experience.
Vasant Nagar, is it?
Vasant Nagar. Yeah. Vasantapura. Sorry, it's not Vasant Nagar. I'm sorry. It's Vasantapura. That is that ISRO layout.
I see.
There, yeah.
Okay, and just one more question, Bala, there again. Since this session is about introduction, I was wondering if you can share any sources or books which would be of interest to a beginner or a person who is new to the music or learning something. Maybe you can share this now or later.
Yeah, sure. I will. So there are some good links. I will share it with Sandhya ji so she can send it to all of you. Is that okay? Or you can ping me separately. I will send you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I can do that.
Yes. See, if you see one I can right away, which is on the top of my mind, is if you go to there is a site run by Karnataka. Karnataka, okay, Karnataka, which is actually this run by these Kiran Chitravina Ravi Kiran and his brothers and Vidushi Soumya. So that has some very good and authentic information. So that is one thing you can straight away, and this all the origins of music and everything they have given nicely in a very form, not too complicated but not too simple, simplistic also. So some good information is given there, so you can look at that. Okay, yeah. Any other? So Sandhya ji, yeah.
Karnataka spelled as
CARNATI Karnataka.net. Let me put that for you. Wait. In the you can see that in the chat screen. I'm putting it. Okay. Yeah, I've sent it. You can use that. That's a good place to start with. The information on composers, musicians, all that is there in that. Okay.
Sandhya?
So,
any
yeah,
question?
No, don't look like there's any.
Sandhya?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? We can come up.
Does anybody else have any questions?
No, there is one question somebody has asked. I mean, this is a very common problem that when I listen to devotional music or something, so even a Carnatic music in the form of a devotional song or something, I'm able to understand it very easily. But when I sit in a concert, I don't. That's a very common thing. Many people see. You won't believe that even I started my music learning with listening to a lot of devotionals only and film music and all that. At some point, I think Carnatic music, any classical, anything which we call as classical, right? You need to be engaged with it for more time. It's like your parents, grandparents. You can't judge your grandparents and parents or with one interaction. No, see, when you are there with them, that whole understanding happens, that whole syncing happens of you of what it is about, and then that music gets into you. So classical with anything, classical physics, classical quantum mechanics, this and all this, they all have that you have to be with them. You have to engage. You have to be engaged with that. So my suggestion is start possibly. See, what you should do is you should you take, for example, musicians who appeal to you. Say, for example, I'll just give to use the name. Say some of you would have listened to devotional songs, say music song by say possibly Bombay Jayashree or Unni Krishna, or somebody who dabble in different genres of music, right? Now start with listening to their Carnatic songs. Okay, start with that. Just listen, and you don't require to sit for 1 hour, 2 hours to listen. Even start listening to the songs, right? And then see slowly. Of course, see that there's also this personal thing which you can relate, and everybody cannot, possibly relate to a particular form of music. If you be with it for some time and see that, are you able to relate it? If you're not able to relate it, you're not able to relate it. That's it. I mean, you can't do. There's nothing right or wrong about it. The point is, see, all this are beauty and a part of melody. We should be able to appreciate melody in whichever form it is. That's all. So it doesn't matter whether it has to be in Carnatic, Hindustani, or devotional, folk. It depends on each person what they can relate to. Naturally, they can relate to. So I hope I have answered all the questions. I saw some of these questions on the chat, and also I have answered. So possibly I'll stop with this. Thanks to everyone. But Sunday morning, to spared their time and being a part of this session.
Vasu, I think I should end up on this session with one nice small song, I believe. I think that remains for us.
Okay, sure. Not an issue.
Please.
Yes. No, not at all. Why?
Maybe a 5-minute song, we don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So let us take a composition of Purandara Dasa only. Narajanma bandage nalige iruvage Krishna yana bharate Krishna Narajanma bandage nalige iruvage Krishna yana bharate ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎಂದರೆ ಸಕಲ ಕಷ್ಟವು ಪರಿಹಾರ. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎಂದರೆ ಸಕಲ ಕಷ್ಟವು ಪರಿಹಾರ. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೃಷ್ಣಯನ ಭಾರತ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಭಾರತ. ಸ್ನಾನಪಾನ ತಪಗಳು ಮಾಡುವ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. ಸ್ನಾನಪಾನ ದಪ ಜಪಗಳು ಮಾಡುವ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. ಸಾಲ್ಯಾನ ಷಟ್ರಸ ಇಂದು ತೃಪ್ತವನಾಗೆ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. ದುರಿದ ರಾಶಿಗಳನ್ನು ಧರಿತು ಪಿಸಾಡುವ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಗರುಡ ಗಮನ ನಮ್ಮ ಪುರದರ ವಿಠಲನ. ಗರುಡ ಗಮನ ನಮ್ಮ ಪುರದರ ವಿಠಲನ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. ಕೃಷ್ಣ ನರ ಜನ್ಮ ಬಂದಾಗ ನಾಲಿಗೆ ಇರುವಾಗ ಕೃಷ್ಣ ಎನ ಭಾರತ. Thank you very much.
That was excellent. Thank you so
Very
much.
soulful voice. Very soulful voice. Which ragam was that? I forgot.
This is Madhuvanti.
Madhuvanti. You can squeeze and sing and go to your emotions. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Vasudevan.
Yes.
With slightly basic knowledge of music, I really enjoyed this session.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I have reached the stage of enjoying music but not singing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Vasu.
Yeah.
That was a wonderful session indeed. I think we learned quite a bit.
Sandhya?
Yeah.
Vasu, kindly conclude the Mangalam. After Sandhya, kindly conclude the...
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, thank you, Vasu. That was really excellent. We look forward to more sessions with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sure. Whatever I can do, I'll surely do. So let me finish with the Mangalam for this session. And possibly after the Mangalam, I can log out, right, Sandhya?
Sure. Thank
Yes, sir.
Bhavamana sutudu patu padare vidamulaku ninama rupamulaku nitya jaya mangalam Rajiva Nayana Tyagaraja Vinuta Mainanina Rupamulaku Nitya Jaya Mangalam Shubha Mangalam Jaya Mangalam. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vasu. That was really soulful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you all. See you again next week.